Chase Hughes, the #1 expert on behavioral science, human intelligence, and influence tactics, once said something very terrifying. He said, "If you believe that social media can't persuade you, you are the suggestible person. Like, your brain versus all these supercomputers designed for this specific task, you're going to lose. I'm going to lose, and I can spot all of the things, and I'm still going to lose." At the end of this video, you'll understand how dangerous propagandas are structured and how to escape from them. The #1 function of our brain is to keep us alive, and that means it's constantly looking for and responding to anything it perceives as a threat to our survival. Way back in the caveman days, threats were pretty straightforward: animals, weather, and other cavemen. The process to deal with them was just as simple. Your brain looked for emotional cues to decide if the situation was pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral and acted accordingly. It makes sense, even today. If you ran into a bear, your emotional response would be fear, which would signal to your brain that the situation is unpleasant and you need to avoid it somehow. Your brain's response would then be to prepare your body to either act against the threat or escape through a raised heart rate, more blood to the muscles and brain, rapid breathing, more oxygen to your body, and shutting down certain bodily functions to preserve energy and remain focused on the task at hand. But what about when your boss calls you and wants to talk to you, or when you give a public speech? Chances are your pulse starts to race, you breathe a little faster, and suddenly that's all you can think about. Sound familiar? That's because as we evolved, our brains kept the same tried and true process despite our lives becoming more socially complex. Enter emotional hijacking. To explain emotional hijacking, there are two key players you should know: the amygdala, the emotional processor, and the prefrontal cortex, the thinker. During an emotional hijack, your amygdala shuts down your prefrontal cortex's normal reasoning process in order to take over a certain situation. As harsh as the word hijack is, it's not all bad. In an emergency like the bear situation we mentioned above, you wouldn't want your brain spending time analyzing all of the ways you could react to the bear and presenting an argument for the most logical solution. You'd need to act quickly, which is why your amygdala takes over and activates your fight or flight response. The dangerous part is when your amygdala tries to take over in non-emergency situations. We are wired to respond to imagined threats almost as intensely as actual ones. During an emotional hijack, our thinking brain gets paralyzed, which means our IQ drops, we lose the ability to make complex decisions, we no longer see other perspectives, and our memory becomes compromised. Well, this right here is a major brain security loophole advertisers and politicians use. They're literally socially hacking us. Politicians and governments who embark on big propaganda schemes are aware of this. They depend on this for their plans to work. They've been aware of this for decades, and they've used it time and time again, and we always find out it was propaganda after the damage is done. I'm not saying we are being engineered constantly only because of fear-mongering or from angry tweets on X, but we as a society are suffering from political anxiety. Political anxiety has consistently been a prevalent source of emotional dysregulation. In this state, a person can easily get emotionally hijacked. Emotional hijacking, in its modern essence, has been used against us for decades. But the emotional hijacking that's happening in 2026 is much more terrifying because of social media, where algorithms are becoming very aware of who we are and what we like. For anyone with the resources, you can create a very effective, targeted emotional hijacking these days, and it happens when you least expect it. A 2023 Pew Research Center survey found that around 6 in 10 U.S. adults say having political conversations with people they disagree with is generally stressful and frustrating. The constant tension has people on edge. The American Psychological Association's Stress in America 2024 poll painted an even grimmer picture. A whopping 77% of adults said the future of our nation is a significant source of stress in their daily lives. This makes us a sitting target for emotional hijacking and makes it very easy to suggest ideas. And because we're worn out, we will accept them. We like to pretend we're logical creatures, that our laws are written with reason, our protests grounded in facts, and our policies designed to make the world better. But if you look closely, modern society looks less like a collaboration of intelligent adults and more like a constant stream of amygdala hijacks. In a world of 24/7 news, viral crime videos, and doom scrolling, the nervous system is constantly overloaded. The brain can't tell the difference between a threat to your village and a threat to your ideology, your lifestyle, or your image of the world. People don't always fight what they fear. They try to run from it. But in a civilized society, running doesn't mean leaving. It means pushing the threat away through force, rules, and exclusion. Don't like the idea of your neighbor owning a certain kind of dog. Ban it. Don't feel safe around people who look, worship, or think differently. Control them. Don't want to imagine the world where someone breaks into your home, arm yourself, or demand others disarm. Here's the part most people won't admit. Fear dresses itself up as morality. We're just trying to protect children. We're making society safer. We're on the right side of history. But underneath all that language is the exact same brainstem circuitry that once said, "Run from the tiger." Only now the tiger is your political opponent, your neighbor, a stranger on the internet, or even your fellow citizen exercising a legal right you don't understand. So instead of admitting fear, people moralize it. They turn it into a cause. They fight for justice that's really just anxiety in disguise. When people are afraid, they look for a target, something they can name, blame, and cage. It is a projection of our primal need to control what we don't understand, and the human brain hates the unknown. So when you see a snake, you think bite. When you hear raccoon, you think rabies. When you hear pit bull, you think mauling. And once that fear is felt, the justification follows. Politicians recognize this biological glitch and immediately weaponize it. They give your fear a name, blaming the left, the right, immigrants, or gender divides. Because we're stuck in an emotional hijack, we stop thinking and start taking sides, handing over our votes to the very people who started the panic in the first place. The core of this whole pattern is simple. People can't regulate what they don't understand without overreacting to what they feel. And what they feel, whether it's about a pit bull or a python, is often a trauma loop, a story they were told, or a headline that burrowed into their limbic brain and made a home there. They see the animal, but they feel the threat. So they push for a response not rooted in facts, but in the hope that fear will go away if the danger does. But fear doesn't disappear, it just finds a new face. Throughout history, entire groups have been demonized not because of what they did, but because of what others feared they might do. That fear doesn't arrive fully formed. It's shaped by propaganda, trauma, and repetition. And once the survival brain locks onto a target, it doesn't ask for nuance. It asks for action. And this is how politicians emotionally hijack you to sway you this way or that way using propaganda. But it's not all bad. You don't have to be a victim of the hijack. There are ways to even the battlefield. When you feel threatened or angry, do the following before reacting so that you're acting with your thinking brain, not the emotional one. First, label the emotion. Literally say, "I am feeling outraged." This forces your prefrontal cortex to turn back on. Do some quick math. 12 times 13 is 156. This wakes up your thinking brain. You can also use the LAP strategy, which stands for label. I'm feeling fear, anger, lust right now. Allow, it's okay to feel this. Pause, I won't act on this yet. Shift, what else can I do right now? We covered only the emotional hijack of propaganda. There are a lot of ways and techniques politicians do this. Propaganda only works if you don't know it's happening. Once you see the strings, you're much harder to pull. Stay grounded, drink water, go outside, connect with people face to face instead of online, and I'll see you in the next one.